Well, what we in Los Angeles call kudos season has just gotten into top gear with the announcement of the Academy Award nominees. And I think it's probably in the interest of all of us to take a look at one of these categories and see what the world's political situation looks like. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. And this is about your post-Oscars Oscars. So here's what I think are the 5 best performances of 2017. And the nominees for Best Male Actor are...
Fire Team Osiris, the light is green.
Brooks isn't a corporal anymore. You're sergeant now. You're the commander of the Marines on this ship.
My honor, sir.
We should contact Admiral Raines now, Commander.
No. Staff Sergeant Omar said to pick your mission. Don't let it pick you. That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Ho, ho, ha, ha. Did you see what I did there? There's a reason for this. Certainly those of us who are conservatives, the half of the country that's routinely insulted by all of the glitterati and all of the rest of the highfalutin limousine liberals who talk about open borders from behind their private security, fenced-in compounds, and all the rest of this hypocrisy. All of this is on its way out. The Oscars used to be something that was just a cultural event. Now it's just kind of like a Thursday night football game, and essentially it's going to disappear. One of the reasons is that entertainment is moving away from feature films and TV into things like content produced by users on YouTube. Some of these getting billions of views. There's not a TV show in the world that ever got billions of views. And also, so much of the focus of the creative arts today is going into computer games. So as you can see from the examples I picked, we're not there yet, but we are getting perilously close to this idea of digital actors and so on. And this is what I'd like to discuss today, the digital future of entertainment. Steve, let's start with you. I suspect that it will be available, it's already available to Hollywood to produce characters that are essentially indistinguishable from digital characters, essentially indistinguishable from real people. Certainly within the next 2 or 3 years, on the high level, it'll be routine. This technology moves downhill very, very quickly. What do you think that says when a screenwriter is not only able to write a character, but perhaps in conjunction with the director, is able to design the character, is to create the actor that they think is perfect for this? Does that worry you at all, or do you think there's some interesting ground to be made there?
No, it doesn't worry me in the slightest, and let me tell you why. How many stories have been written, by writers of course, about how Hollywood screwed up their book? Or about how the singer screwed up their song. I've got Ray Charles and the Count Basie Orchestra doing a little number called Mom, Look What They Did to My Song. So this is the age-old lament that somewhere between the writer and the audience, you've got a money-grubbing producer, you've got an egotistical director, you have idiot actors who all kind of conspire to ruin the writer's vision. And I remember during the big writer's strike of, maybe this is 20 years ago now, one of the guys at one of these awards show reminding the audience that every great movie begins with a great script. But we also have a lot of lousy movies that probably started with a pretty great script. But all of these things are in the way between the writer and delivering the writer's vision to the audience. And if we can give writers these tools to create these things directly and send them to their audience directly, I think this would be the biggest boon to film and TV, maybe since the invention of the projector. I can hardly wait to see it. And I'd worried before that instead of having the broad popular culture that we had at the dawn of mass media, and then for about 30 to 50 years after that, now we're in these silos, and the silos keep getting skinnier and skinnier and taller. Well, this disintermediation between the writer and the audience may be able to bring back the popular culture, the actual broad-based culture that we started losing in the 60s and 70s.
Well, as we saw from some of the examples I listed earlier, some of these characters are photorealistic, but others are extremely realistic looking and yet very stylized. They're clearly not somebody who could ever have been cast.
Hang on, Bill. Let me throw something in really quick. My favorite
Sure.
comedic performance of 2017, Baby Groot.
There you go. Exactly. Scott, here's what I think is interesting about this, mostly politically, is that we're not there yet, but we're getting there very, very quickly. All of these performances that we saw earlier are not animators moving lips and frame by frame adjusting expressions. This is facial motion capture, body motion capture. So these are real actors performing, and the computer's recording their motions and then translating those motions onto a digital character. And really, this essentially got started with Andy Serkis's amazing work with Gollum back in Lord of the Rings early 2000s. But what it means is this, Scott. We're very close to seeing, I think, the same kind of revolution in big ticket entertainment that we saw with the whole idea of news and opinion when we got started, when the internet finally had the bandwidth to do video. In other words, for the cost of about $5,000, you can get a pretty good mocap system. Digital animators, digital sets, digital people, they're not quite there yet, but when these things become photorealistic and a person can produce essentially an epic feature film in a room the size of this studio, and this is not hyperbole by any means, this is certainly coming. What do you think that does to level the playing field in terms of getting this kind of content away from these billionaire leftists and their big studios and out into the people who have differing opinions about things?
I think we live in heady times. I mean, it's this kind of exciting time to be alive. I mean, the first thing that occurs to me is finally, hooray, there'll be great opportunities for ugly people who have technical skills. You know, you don't have to be, you don't have to have a jaunty jaw or handsome eyebrows to be really at the heart of a star performance in a movie anymore. It's guys who know how to code, you know. It's people who have actual skills who are becoming the real stars in Hollywood. And I guess we'll have to banish the others to the stage where they'll have to perform live in front of people and learn their craft. The other thing that strikes me is that a computer-generated character is unlikely to sexually harass his co-stars or the interns on the set.
But not impossible.
Yeah, not impossible, but unlikely. That's why I said just unlikely. The other thing, which is a fascinating notion, is the prominence in recent years of vocal acting that has, you have to actually be a significantly better actor to pull off some of this stuff in
all these voice in animated movies and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, think of Robin Williams in Aladdin years ago, who really created that character through the power of his voice. And the artist just sort of built it around Robin Williams' voice. And so, I think that there are lots of positive things that come out about it. Earlier today, I was messing around with GarageBand on my computer here, and it does things that I don't even have an inkling of how to do. But I have an entire band in my iMac.
Yes,
I can write a song with a drum line and bass and guitars and put it all together. And if I want to sing on it, I can do that. But if I don't, I can completely fabricate all that. So, I think it is really amazing. We've said this before on this show, but they used to, say that we have freedom of the press in this country for the man who owns one. And now, in a sense, everybody owns one. We have, freedom to shape the culture for the person who owns a movie studio, and I have one, and so will you.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Everyone will be able to own a feature film studio for $10,000 or less. And I think this is what's exciting about it to me. Certainly young people are trending more and more towards video games. They're spending less and less time and money going to films and more time living in the world of these video games. And one of the reasons they become so attractive is because of what we call these cut scenes, which we showed some segments of earlier, where these highly rendered scenes of characters interacting either with you or with each other, followed by some gameplay and then another cut scene and so on. So just in a nutshell, what I would say is this. If I was a Hollywood actor, I wouldn't be too worried because motion capture requires acting. As Scott pointed out, it requires exceptional acting. And it's a very difficult kind of acting where you've got a camera directly in front of your face here in this net and so on. So there's going to be room for a lot more technicians, but these are things that are affordable. Motion capture systems now $2,000. Facial recognition capture software maybe $400 or $500. These are all available. So we'll still need actors. If I was a movie star, on the other hand, I'd be a little concerned about this because a good actor who may just be a real ordinary looking guy essentially will have the ability to have the features of whichever particular actor we find most interesting. I will say two things in terms of a caveat. One of them is that if you get to design your own faces, they tend to all look similar. It's hard to commit to somebody with the idiosyncrasies that come in from people off of the street. That concerns me a little bit, sort of the homogeneity of these computerized characters. I suspect that'll change too. But the final thing I'll say about this is I think the people who have to worry the least are writers. Back in 1980-81, I was, and I mean, we were just getting started with computer games, the simplest kind of, like branching out. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And a theater director, teacher who I respected very much, named David Shelton, said he was worried that since audiences will be able to make a decision, that basically they won't need writers anymore, that during the course of the movie, at several different key points, the audience will vote on what they want the character to do, and therefore you won't need writers anymore. And even at that early time, I said, Dr. Shelton, I think you're wrong about that one. And the reason I think you're wrong about that one is because if the audience gets to decide what the characters are going to do, then they'll always do the right thing. They'll always do the right thing, and they'll always do the thing that we want them to do. Well, the villains will always be punished. The heroes will always triumph, and it's going to be as boring as it can be because a great story is when the heroes do something wrong and evil, and the villains have some humanizing element about them. So those elements will still be here. But to me, it's the democratization of it. It's the idea that already within our fingertips is the means to produce films that look very much of the quality of Lord of the Rings or so on, and that within the next 3 or 4 years, certainly, we will all, as we now have our own TV studios in our homes and we have our own means of communication, pretty soon we will all have our own, enormous Hollywood movie lots and $150, $200, $300 million budgets to make these kind of movies, and we'll be able to do it if you can talk your friends into helping you out. It's an interesting world, and we're gonna live to see it. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next time here with Steve Green and Scott Ott and on Right Angle, made possible by the paying members at BillWhittle.com.